gotta start thinking of a funny thing to say during this time, because this is always the most awkward moment where we're all just staring at each other, waiting before we.
I'm looking at the camera, so I'm not looking at y'all.
I'm doing.
So I'm just awkwardly standing at or staring at the camera.
I have my monitor like directly right behind my camera, so there's like.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent.
Good to know.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to NonSequitur. I'm Kyle Curtis, joined as always by the infamous Steve McRae, who is about 3 sheets to the wind based on the bottles that we saw prior to coming on air.
I came prepared. I'm no joke, man. Wait, I got more. Shit. Way to go. Oh, shit. There you go. So, just in case.
What I mean?
Yeah.
Strap in, everyone. It's going to be one of those shows. Strap in. But we're also joined by the lovely Kaitlyn Chloe. Hello.
Hi, y'all. Hi.
How are you? By the way, everyone.
I'm lovely. How you doing?
I was just drafted to be her maid of honor, so no taking that back when it happens, Casey.
I'm the wedding crasher.
Yeah.
And we also have, for the first time, joining us, Richard, who is the man behind the Mind Experience. Hello, Richard.
Hi there.
And we're going to give you a second to introduce yourself in just a moment. I just want to go through kind of some of the things that we have coming up, as always. Let me pull that up. And we will get the show going. Okay, so tomorrow, David Smalley, Casey, will be with us tomorrow.
I love David Smalley. He's such a great guy.
Yeah, he's great. I spoke with him for the first time 2 days ago, and I didn't know he did stand-up, as like a thing. But I used to do it in college, so we started talking about that back and forth. And the man who was his manager, his first manager, Joey Kirkman, was mine when I was in the comedy circuit. So we know all of the same people in the same clubs. It was fun. So he's going to be great. He's actually going to be debating the artist formerly known as Christian Anarchist tomorrow. I believe it's Reformed. It's Reformed Christian, I think, now apologist. Right, Steve? Oh,
Hello?
You're muted, drunkie.
Oh, no. I haven't started drinking yet. I had one sip, please. No, I think it's like RC Christian. Is that what it was?
I think it stands for Reformed. We'll find out tomorrow. But
he's the apologist.
Yeah, I think it's Reformed Christianity. But anyway, he changed his name. We'll find out what that is officially. I'm going to keep calling him the artist formerly known as Christian Anarchist because
I like that.
Yeah. I think that sticks. Sunday, we will be joined by Ozzy to have a discussion, I guess, although I can tell it's already going to get heated between at least Steve and I on this is probably the opportunity you see Steve and I get to hash it out. But on is doubt a virtue? I am a person that thinks that doubt is a virtue. Steve is not. And I think we're going to have Ozzy kind of referee it, although I'm pretty sure that I know where Ozzy stands on this as well.
Oh, so, he definitely doesn't think doubt's a virtue.
Yeah, so it's going to be a 2-on-1 battle, but I'm coming ready, everyone. So
we're going to have Beautiful Doubt join us.
He's tied up until June. I thought I told you. Yeah, he's tied up until June. He's moving and he's got school. So he's going to be joining us for the Apple and Android thing later on in June, but I know Ozzy's got kind of a busy schedule, so I didn't want to slate Ozzy back on that. We're off Memorial Day, and then we've got the Trader's Coin on Tuesday, Jehovah's Witness debate between Telltale and Lloyd Evans. Actually, I saw this guy that they're going to be debating. He called the Atheist Experience. I was watching that video just before we came on. Really good. So I think that's going to be a really good discussion. And then our Egyptologist will be back on Thursday, Dr. Maggie Bryson, to talk about the ancient pharaohs and some interesting stuff to come with that. So really wild, different week coming up. Really wild, different show coming up tonight. I hope you are strapped in. I think it's going to be quite the experience. And I'm going to actually turn it over to Richard to let him introduce himself, talk about his website, a little bit about what he does, and we'll go from there. Richard?
Hi, guys. There's not much to say about me. I'm not into like all the stuff you guys are into, you know, like I just want to find out what's going on in life. So,
that's a better question.
I mean, that's all I'm interested in. And so that's why flat earth or the flying globe interests me a lot. And basically, I'm an ex-stockbroker and I have a like genetic gift of helping people to heal. It's kind of like an automatic thing. I don't do the healing. It's just like an automatic thing, but that's another story. So for me, if we can like just kick it off here, the human race, they're storytellers. They love to tell stories. Science, religion, history, it's all about telling stories. Unfortunately, we are utterly brainwashed. We're brainwashed with society. We're brainwashed from our parents, from schooling, the whole duty. So the story is this. With all the beliefs in the world, the most insane belief to me is that we are on a flying ball rock that is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and speeding at 67,000 miles an hour going around the sun. I mean, to me, that is just the definition of insanity.
Why?
And a lot of, I know you guys like to mock religion, and
I don't. Don't assume things. I don't mock religion at all.
I do.
She does.
Well,
yeah, blame her. I'm not her. She's not me.
Casey and I. That would be more.
Okay, yeah, right. So, I mean, I'm not a defender of religion, but as crazy as the religious stories on the belief of Noah and the ark and that flood and immaculate conception and all that stuff, this heliocentric religion belief is just as crazy.
Why?
Okay. Well, look, that's a good question. I want to take this. I want to take this in pieces in a specific order, okay? Because the flat Earth issue is probably going to be the most contentious and where things are going to get heated. So I want to tread
the other stuff not
carefully at first and get through two issues prior to that, and then we can ease into the flat Earth thing. Is that okay with you, Richard?
Ease into it.
Yeah, it's your show. Go for it.
Okay. So I want to start out with, you mentioned it a second ago that you, and this is what I found so interesting on your website. So you do healings through like we're doing right now, correct?
You just got cut off.
He got broken. He said you do healings through Skype, like we're doing right now, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I did 1-to-1, but it can happen through anything. But it can also happen through the technology of Skype or even audio. I mean, it works when it wants to work.
Okay. So how does that take us through that? Like and we'll use KC as an example. Kind of walk us through how one of those would go.
Okay, I'll tell you how I do it from my side.
Okay.
What I do, like I'm doing right now, okay, I hear what you guys are saying in words. Then I pick up your energy, your emotional state, your psychological state that the words are coming through on. I mean, it's not NASA fake rocket science. It's like, it's simple. Right.
So what are our energies right now?
So like, are our energies like these wavelengths, or
I felt
what
like
are you picking
a total change in energy in the last minute, right? I mean, I can't figure out why it's happening or what's happening here. So there's a lot of nervous energy right now going on.
I'm steady as a rock, baby.
I am. Look, when we get to this part,
Give me a half hour. It won't be that way.
I'm always nervous in every show, Richard, because I don't know. Like I said, if you've seen our shows before, but sometimes
he has neurosis. Yes,
they have a tendency to to tank quickly.
I'm just telling you. I'm not. Look, I'm not a judge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just telling you how I function.
Right.
That's all.
So do you read like all of our energies at one time, or do you hone in on a specific person?
No, I don't read it. I feel it.
Oh, okay. So do you feel all of? Sorry, I used the wrong word. I'm sorry. Do you feel all of our energies? Do you feel all of our energies, like all of our energies at one time, or do you tend to connect with like an individual person?
I just feel what's coming through.
Do you feel me? Do you feel me?
Not so much.
Fair enough. I don't know. People wonder if I exist. So that's good. Okay, you know what? He might be legit. Okay, might be some truth to this.
What about
move
me,
on?
Richard?
I want to know other people.
What about me, Richard? What do you feel when my energy comes through?
I do feel like a nervous energy from you.
Okay.
Look, I'm also
good so far.
Come on.
I'm also contributing to the nervous energy. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We all are.
That's natural because it's your first time on here. I get nervous for a different reason because I never know what's coming next, and that's what scares me.
But I'm not nervous for the show.
Yeah.
I'm not nervous for the show. I'm nervous. I'm just reacting to the nervous energy. Anyway, let's get beyond that.
Okay.
Sure.
So the way I do the healing is it's through, talking and finding. I ask people what's troubling them, where they're at, and I go deeper into their personal problem or problems. Right now, what's going on right now, not yesterday or so. And then when I get to that, I share the emotions that they are feeding me, I give it back to them. So they can experience themselves in the moment for who they really are. Because often people, life's complicated and it's not easy. And it's not easy with all this indoctrination in society. It's just not easy to be you or me. The mind experience, and it's by accident, is ME, which is me. And we all call ourselves by the same name, which is me or I. We all call ourselves by the same name, which is crazy. If you really take a step back and have a look at it.
Pronouns, yeah, they're nuts.
This is why I get nervous because I went into this thinking that this was just going to be completely something different. So far you're not going on the crazy meter so far.
Well, I'm crazy in comparison to society because I'm not a sheep,
Yeah. Okay.
And
so
I like to go deep. Relatively.
That's what she said.
Who's she?
This is deteriorating. Hold on 1 second, Richard. I have to scold my two co-hosts here. Listen. I apologize.
I told you before the show. It's one of the languages I speak. I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize for who you are.
And Steve is muted. Steve.
Richard,
what language are you proficient in, Casey? What language are you proficient in?
Sexual innuendo.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
I'm muted. I'm sorry. I'm muted though. I'm muted.
That's all right.
Okay.
Okay.
Casey,
Steve, take the bottle
Casey,
and put it away from you, Steve. Go ahead, Richard.
Oh hell no.
Okay, Casey, twice you've mentioned the word sexual innuendo. So are you very sexual?
That's a very personal question. But yeah, sure.
Okay. So can we get back to what I was saying?
Sure.
Segue to that. Okay.
Yeah, Richard, that's kind of a question that you just tossed away there, but
no, wow, that had so much potential there. That's okay.
No, I'm alarmed. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so
because he would have hated my answer. Oh God.
Look, So I get the energy that you guys give me, and say you got a problem, right? And then I redirect the energy back to you in words and in the feeling, so you can feel what's inside you that you're resisting, that is like harming you and painful to you. Does that make sense?
So far.
But so I have a question, because generally speaking, and maybe you can explain to me, generally speaking, when somebody's feeling something, they're already feeling that. So when you feel that and send it back to them, how is that different from what they're feeling to begin with?
Well, they're feeling it, but they're feeling it and thinking about it, and their thoughts are confusing them. Their thoughts are not allowing them to feel what's really going on, because thought is confusion, in general. If you overthink, if you think too much, then, you're either feeling what you're feeling or you're thinking. You're not really doing both at the same time.
Okay. I mean, while I agree with you to a point, because sometimes people, get emotional and their emotions take over with their brain, so I get that to a point, but I would disagree, like, holistically. I think you can feel things and think at the same time.
No, I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying that thought overrides the feeling often. Thought confuses the feeling. Let me put it that way.
Okay, so your thoughts and your feelings, basically, you get mixed up between the two.
Well, you know what? Your thoughts are at war with your feelings, but your
That's
feelings
true sometimes. I agree with that.
Your feelings are never at war with your thoughts. Your feelings are like they are. Thought is active, and feelings are like passive.
I can follow that.
Feelings are passive?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, passive as in feeling, like a feeling won't attack a thought.
Okay.
And that sounds crazy, but
well, once you send it back to the person, though, and the person has a chance to kind of experience that, what's the next step to
well, you see, that's a good question. You see, the next step is for the person to experience what's the pain or whatever is harming them, that emotion or the emotions, to experience it in the raw. So it needs to build up. They need to allow it, because we taught, positive thinking. Reject the negative and just go for the positive, which is really a very harmful way of living. You need to embrace the negativity, the darkness. If you like writing a test, an exam, if you you just study the positivity, you're going to fail the exam, because how much of you is positive? Can I ask you guys, like, percentage-wise, what did you say? How much of you is positive and how much is negative?
110% positive, for sure.
And I couldn't even quantify it.
You got no negativity.
I think it would be hard to quantify. I mean, I'm a pretty positive person, but I also believe that, reality is a thing. So the always thinking positively is just not rational.
Yeah, I mean,
I would say 70-30. 70-30.
I mean, if he's asking, are we more likely on a day-to-day basis to be positive than negative? I'm going to say yes. I'm much more optimistic than I am pessimistic. Is that fine?
Well, that's a good thing.
I think so. Yeah. Thank you.
But what I'm saying,
I could be wrong on that, because I'm always self-assessing myself. But
Yeah, you see, now this is a great point. This self-assessment is a vicious circle.
So it's bad? Self-assessment is bad?
Self-assessment is a circle?
A vicious circle.
Up
to a point, it's good, but then it just becomes
depression.
A noise.
Well, I mean, we all self-assess ourselves daily. I think that we couldn't even function if we didn't every so often go, okay, is this the right course of action or something along those lines?
Well, plus I think we learn and grow. I think we learn and grow from self-assessment.
Let me ask you this question. This is a very important question. When you self-assess yourself, okay, How many voices are there going on?
Well,
how many do you have going on?
One for me, because I don't have multiple personalities. So one.
That is a fascinating question.
I'm going to go with one as well.
No, so there's the assessor and the assessed, the observer and the observed. So the assessor, there's at least two people there.
But I'm one person.
There's a conversation going on.
But I'm one person. It's still both me.
Rich,
no,
but they have a name for that.
Thought is a
personality disorder, I think.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah. The structure of thought is a duality.
You mean like having a conversation with yourself?
Yeah. Now,
okay,
in that conversation...
Well, I do that every night when I have a lucid dream, but...
Still one person, though, Richard.
Sorry?
It's still just one person.
Right.
No, if you're having a conversation with yourself, then there are two people there. There's a person that's judging or observing, and then that person observing something else.
I think the whole term self-assessment is lost on you because it's self. It's one person, and even though you might have different things that you're thinking, it's only one being having those thoughts.
Right.
But you're talking to yourself.
No, I don't talk to myself when I
really
assess. The only time I talk to myself is when I'm making lists or doing math.
I think that's perfectly fine. I mean, look, sometimes we enunciate things just because it's part of our thought process. What's wrong with that? It's not like you're having a conversation thinking that I have two individual distinct consciousnesses in my brain. That would be a problem.
Here's a better question, though, Richard, for that. Do the assessor and the assessee have different names? That would be an indicator of something deeper, I think. Like if Dave was assessing Richard, but you were having a conversation with yourself, that might be an issue.
Well, I'm not talking about. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I'm not talking about what's right and wrong.
Okay.
I'm just talking about what's actually going on inside the human brain.
Sure, we can. Let's leave that point where it's at. I think that we kind of said what we need to on that. But go to the next step.
Okay. No, so the next step is to show or allow another person to experience what they've been resisting.
Okay.
How do you know someone's been resisting something? You feel it?
Well,
you just...
No, I talk to them about it. They tell me about it, and then I can feel what they're sharing with me, and then I just give it. It's an automatic thing. I don't do it. I don't force myself to do it. I do it automatically.
So
I do it with myself.
Okay, so if someone is telling you something and telling you about whatever problems that they're going through, and then you feel what they're feeling, isn't that empathy?
You know what? Empathy is just a word, really.
Oh God, this is the second one I've been to where somebody said that's just a word.
I don't know what that means either. It's just a word. Where a word is just a word. That's a tautology, actually. I don't know what else words could be but words.
Empathy is sensitivity.
Okay.
Huh? So
sure.
Look, we're all sensitive creatures. You know, we like to call ourselves beings. I like to call ourselves creatures. We're all sensitive, but we've had the sensitivity stuffed out of us from growing up. Life is traumatic, and a traumatic experience, really. There's times when the trauma...
Have you met any millennials, Richard? Have you met a millennial? I don't think they've had...
Probably not.
They've got all the feels.
They have not had the sensitivity stuffed out of them.
Yeah, they're like overly sensitive.
Well, if you're neurotically sensitive, then it's a huge problem, anyway. But it's difficult to be me, you, me. It's difficult to be yourself without having a mask in society. If you go to a restaurant and you want to be in that restaurant, as you walk in, there are energy rules. Society has energy rules, And if you step out of those energy rules or conforming, you know, then that you looked at immediately and said, and it's like automatic, you know, subconsciously the people will look at you and say, what are you doing?
Give me an example.
You can't behave like that.
What did you call them? Energy rules. Yeah. What can you explain what these energy rules are? Like, can you list them?
Well, it's like cultural energy rules for each culture or each country.
Have got societal norms. Societal norms.
Yeah.
So what society dictates, that you're calling that a rule?
An energy rule?
Yeah, an energy rule.
Society dictates everything. Yeah, of course it's an energy rule.
Okay, so we're basically renaming like empathy and societal rules. We're just putting different labels on them. Is that
we're creating a new lexicon? Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to do that because then, you know, you get out of being stuck in a word that you've known your whole life.
Isn't the purpose of having words to be able to communicate and convey something? I mean, if we have an understanding, if I use a word and Kyle knows the same word and we have the same understanding through kind of a general parlance that we both know what this word means in everyday speech, what's wrong with that? If I say hi, he knows that's a greeting, right? I mean, I don't have to relabel hi to something else.
He's using it as an example to, like, I think, get out of your norm.
Your condition.
What's wrong with being the norm? I don't know why you'd have to change things that are normative like that.
If you're happy with the way you are and you think everything's hunky-dory and everything's the way you should be and you've got peace of mind, then
you are Channing Tatum.
Yeah, I didn't arrive to that conclusion from just being able to use certain words, but sure.
No, what I'm saying to you is that when you say something to me right now, you're talking to me. You're not only talking in words, you're talking with your whole emotional, psychological state of energy which you're sharing with me.
Well, how many people are we talking to right now, Richard?
No, but I'm talking to you now.
No, I know, and I'm me. I'm one person. Casey's one, and Kyle's one. How many are you?
Well, basically, I'm one person, but I want to find out what's going on inside me, and we never taught that.
I mean, I think a lot of people are taught that.
I don't think so. Evaluating yourself through the thinking process. If your feelings are much more powerful than your thoughts.
I see where you're going with this, but for time's sake, because I know that we've got two more issues that we want to get to.
Okay, go for it.
Let's kind of wrap this up. The most thing that I'm interested in really is how effective have your Skype healings been with people that you do this, and how often are people seeking you out to have these kind of Skype sessions?
Well, you know, generally people, it appears to me, don't really want to get healed.
Who wouldn't want to get healed?
Yeah, why not?
I don't know. They just don't. They just don't.
And is it healed of anything? Or, I mean, do you have a specific thing that you say, okay, I'm going to heal you for this specific condition? Or is it just, okay, whatever it is, you're healed, somebody's going to get healed?
I don't do the healing. All I do is I connect a person with himself. Once they're connected with themselves and they're not like separated, once they are not separated from their feelings and their emotions, and once they're connected to themselves, and there's an automatic healing that happens immediately. It's got nothing to do with me. I just connect the person to themselves.
And what kind of healing? Like healing of like your proverbial soul, or like mental healing, or like actual physical ailment healing?
Look, first of all, I don't believe in a soul.
Well, I don't either. I that's why I said proverbial. So like, are we talking about mental healing or
disease? Miladies.
Or disease healing, like actual physical healing of your body from your mind?
Well, you know, on my website, it says that stress is the main killer. Stress causes disease in the physical body. Emotional stress makes the body sick, ill.
Okay, so I was born with a condition, so stress didn't cause that because I wasn't born yet. So how was that caused?
That's genetic.
Right.
Can you heal those? Can you heal genetic things? Or not you, but can you facilitate the healing of genetic anomalies or something?
Yeah. Is it physical or spiritual? I think that's what we want to know.
Or mental.
I'm saying that the physical is the spiritual. There's no difference. If you want to, what is a physical body? A physical body is scientifically, what is it? It's made of molecules that are running through like the space in the body. The physical, there's no such thing as a physical.
But you can touch it.
Yeah,
you can touch physical things.
Can you elaborate?
How do you define physical then? Yeah.
No, I'm saying that if you look at if you go inside the physical body, you will find out that according to science, it's made of molecules. So what really is a physical body? It's like a spiritual thing. I mean, even the word spiritual to me is a dangerous word because it has connotations of religion or,
Richard, this may be an example of those where you just call it something different, like energy rules and social norms. But when we say physical, we're talking about the body that you can actually touch. That like I'm grabbing my hand right now. That's physical.
Yes.
I can't grab sadness. You follow me?
But the sadness lives inside the body, right?
But it's not a physical thing. It's
right,
an emotional state.
No, sadness is a physical thing.
It's an emotion. Emotions are not a physical thing. They're a manifestation of physical substrate. If you want to go into that kind of approach, but
it's not tangible.
Yeah, you can't say, "Hey, I have a bottle of sadness." It's not
actually you do, Steve.
This is bullshit. This is happiness, mofo.
The bottle of
happy right now. This is the bottle of happiness.
So okay, Richard. Let's just kind of let's leave that on the sad Steve bottle on that issue. I think that we've kind of hit that good enough. I want to make sure we have enough time to get everything because the next thing that I want to talk about is,
you're going to perform it in some way.
I mean, you'd have to I think you'd have to actually want to be healed. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to kind of believe in it somehow for it.
You want to be healed, whatever is for the hell wrong with you. I don't know what you need to be healed of.
It sounds like that was something like a personal conversation, though. I don't want to put anybody on the spot that way.
That was what he was going to do, though.
But let's talk about moon landings.
You mean the Disney moon landings?
Yeah, moon landings. So you don't think that we landed on the moon, correct?
I know we didn't land on the moon.
Please
and how do you know that?
Well, because first of all, you look at what NASA says, and then you dissect it, and you find out are there any facts in what they say, and there aren't because they contradict themselves all the time.
Okay, so what do you say about third-party evidence that has nothing to do with NASA?
Can I give me an example?
Russia,
third party. Russia are in on this. It's all about money.
Yeah, because they were so tight with us back in the late 60s. They were like that with Russia.
Well, also the Japanese, and if you take countries out of it, there are observatories and educational institutions and all kinds of there are all kinds of observations of the moon landing. The moon landings happening.
Tell me one that's factual. Give me one example that's factual, because I'll go into what the problems are. But do you have any factual examples?
Well, so we have like JAXA, which is the Japanese Aeronautical, Exploration Agency. They have the Selene lunar probe that went and took photos and did comparison photos between their images and the Apollo images. And the the terrain matches, and you can also get photographs, and there are multiple people who have done this, gotten photographs of the actual lunar landing site where NASA said that it was, and you can see it because
you can't see it. You can't see it.
You can see it.
You can't see the toy lunar model.
On the moon too, Richard. They have reflectors
They have retro reflectors on the moon that observatories all over the world use and bounce lasers off of still today.
Right.
There's no reflectors on the moon.
You just search these things. Wait, hang on. Richard,
I think he's gonna try to explain the reflectors, and then we'll
you guys know what you guys know, and you believe what you believe. But if you want to hear a third party's story, then you've got to listen a little bit.
Okay.
Well, you don't listen to third party stories.
Yeah, and we have evidence. We could bounce something off the moon and show there's something up there.
I've heard all this stuff a million times,
but you discount it. You basically say, "Hey, we can put a laser to the moon. We can bounce it off a reflector. That's a truism. It happens. Anybody can go do it." And you're saying that doesn't happen just by fiat.
I'm saying you're not giving me a chance to say what I'm saying.
Well, does that happen?
Okay,
Please explain.
Let's let him say what he's saying. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Before the Disney moon landings, scientists were bouncing lasers off the moon. Scientists were bouncing lasers off the moon before they pretended to put red reflectors on the moon.
Can you provide proof of that happening?
And there was no directionality. Yeah, there was no directionality. We can actually bounce it to a specific location and actually pinpoint where it's going to bounce back. Okay, the only way it can bounce back with the same line of sight is if there's something actually reflecting it.
If you go to the internet, you will find out after the show. You will find out that scientists, before they said they went to the moon, were bouncing lasers off the moon.
But could they?
I didn't invent that.
And could they? I don't think you're
understanding.
Could
they direct it?
Do you know what angle of incidence is?
I'm not talking about directing it or anything like that. I'm saying they were bouncing lasers off the moon.
What the hell has that got to do with the reflector up there, though?
Well, the reflectors make it to where you can direct energy.
Yes.
There's no retro reflectors up there.
Yes, there is.
So let me ask you this.
I don't know where they got.
How does it work when that's happening? Like, walk me through the explanation of why someone would point a laser to the moon and see it reflecting. What are they seeing?
And can you give us the name of a laser that you were bouncing? What location from the 1960s?
I'd have to go onto the internet and look for it. But I'm talking to you guys now, so I can't do it. But I can tell you it's a fact. So when you go and have a look, you'll see I'm not lying. But let's talk about you just honing in on one thing. Let's talk about everything. Hold
on, Richard. Hold on. I don't mean to interrupt you, but hold on 1 second. I want to know, not before they claimed that the reflectors were on the moon, but when it happens now, when you point the laser to the moon and you see it reflecting, what are they seeing?
They are seeing what was going on before they stated there was a moon. They went to the moon.
That doesn't make any sense, Richard. That doesn't make any sense.
It's possible to bounce lasers off the
Nobody's
moon.
disagreeing with that. You can bounce the laser off anything. It's any kind of semi-reflective surface. This is a very highly reflective surface that you could actually bounce a signal that contains a message and have that message retrieved somewhere else. And that's only possible if it's something that's highly reflective and conserving of the signal integrity, which would be.
So maybe they were doing it before the 60s. I'll grant you that. Let's say, for the sake of argument, I'll grant you they were doing it before the 60s. But now, when somebody does that experiment, what are they seeing when it comes back?
And I'm sure that they were doing it in the 60s. But they weren't doing any kind of highly reflective something where they had something where they can actually pinpoint. And reflect back. So fine with them sending a signal up there. Sure, we bounce stuff off their ham radio. People do it often,
But let's forget about that. Let's forget about the before the 60s part right now, because that's not an issue. I don't want to argue about that because it may or may not have been the case. But what are they seeing now when somebody does it?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what they're seeing.
Okay, good. Perfect. That's an honest answer. Good.
No, I have no idea what they're seeing.
I I just don't think it was a message like any kind of intelligible signal. I would have a difficulty guessing.
Okay.
Like they could do a pulse.
Now you see, if you take one topic and you just drown it, then you
Sure.
Let's
talk about
any topic you want, Orlando. Sure.
But I think it's important, Richard, that when we discuss this, that we don't gloss over the points. You know what I mean? Because that gets lost, and I think it's important to parse through them. So every claim that you're getting ready to bring up about why you think it didn't happen, we need to spend the appropriate time to either, we can say why it did or did not and kind of move on from there. But just stating those things and then saying, "Oh, go check it out later," it's not a good way to kind of parse through this conversation. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give you the opportunity now to go anywhere you want in any kind of evidence, list them off, however you want to do it. But what you think the strongest arguments are for why we didn't land on the moon.
There are so many. First of all, I don't believe a rocket can go into space.
Okay, why?
I don't believe that when a rocket goes through the atmosphere and all of a sudden it goes into space, into a vacuum, when the rocket thrusts in a vacuum, it's not pushing against anything. So I don't even believe a rocket can go into space.
Okay, but you understand that I don't believe it can't happen. Doesn't make
you believe it. No, you believe it can happen.
Okay,
it's a belief. It's a belief. You see a movie from Stanley Kubrick who directed it. No, you do. You saw 2001: Space Odyssey. You saw. It's a movie. It's not real. So let's talk about temperatures in space.
Well, I think Kaitlyn had a question real quick, Richard, about that point. Let me make sure.
Well, so we have different kinds of propulsion that will work in space. I mean, yeah, you can't go into space with propellers, but I mean, but the way that they do rocket propulsion does work in space. I know that this works.
Because we could show the science behind it.
I'm a rocket scientist. That's how I know. Because that's what I do for a living. So I know that we go into space and that rocket propulsion works in space.
Yeah, why wouldn't it work in space? I'm just kind of curious. I mean, have you ever drawn a free body diagram? Have you ever looked at the physics, things like linear conservation of momentum, or why a rocket actually does move? I mean, if you look at the physics, it's clear that's going to work in a vacuum. There's no reason why it wouldn't. It's just basic conservation of linear momentum, right?
But it needs thrust.
Not. What
well, let him answer. Let him answer. Let him answer. Go ahead, Richard.
A rocket
thrust is. Sorry, go ahead.
Let him answer. Let's remember, guys. Let's not talk over each other.
There's a little bit of delay.
Everybody gets a chance to. Everybody gets a chance to respond. Okay. Go ahead, Richard.
Okay. There is no way on Earth that you can show a rocket functioning in a vacuum. You can't show.
Yes, there is. I've watched it.
Yes, there is. Yeah,
I've watched it. I've watched it in a war room.
You're going to have to expand on that, Richard. We need more than just there's no way. Like, tell us why there is no way.
I mean, I'm not an expert on this one subject.
Clearly.
Okay. Good.
But I mean,
that's a good answer.
No, but we've just started. I mean, there's so many other things. But a rocket has to use thrust to go in a vacuum. It has to. So what is it pushing against?
The top end of the rocket. If you got something going out this side, you have it pushing against this side.
But it's in a vacuum.
It doesn't matter. Still ejecting stuff.
There's no air to push against for it to go forward.
You have a combustion chamber where you have ejecta, which is matter being propelled out the exhaust, right? So if mass goes this way, conservation of linear momentum means there's a force going this way. If mass goes this way, rocket goes this way.
What I'm saying
is, you have somebody here that does
fifth grade science.
What, Carl?
Casey.
What?
Casey, do you want to expound upon that?
No, I mean it's basic force. It's how Steve said it is fine. There's really, I mean, I get what you're saying. There's not like a ground to push against or anything like that, but you don't need that. Yeah, you don't need that.
Right.
No, you definitely do need that.
You definitely don't.
If I stand on a skateboard and I have a big medicine ball and I toss it to somebody, what happens?
Is a skateboard in a vacuum?
You could do it in a vacuum. Guess what? It still works.
No, you can't do. No, you can't do it in a vacuum.
You can. If you have a ball and you throw that ball and that ball is going to go one way, you're going to go the other way. It's an equal and opposite reaction.
These are basic laws of motion.
Not in a vacuum.
Why not?
Yes.
I don't know why these laws stop working in a vacuum.
Because the laws of motion are on Earth. They're not in space.
According to who?
Newton.
Huh?
How would Newton know that? He never dealt with anything in space.
No, you're saying the laws of motion, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. I'm saying this does not apply in a vacuum. Show me an experiment where it does.
YouTube, they have tons of them.
Yeah.
No, don't just say YouTube. That doesn't cut
well,
in.
we can link it to you.
I just want to reiterate one more time that saying no, it doesn't, and no, you can't, and not really being able, because see, every time that we try to refute your argument, they give examples. Each one of them will give you an example of, like Steve did with the medicine ball. They'll give you examples of why it is that works, but you're just coming to the table with no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
I'm saying it doesn't work. All I'm saying is it doesn't work in a vacuum. Let's talk about temp. Can we talk about temp? Wait, hang on a second.
In just a second. But I want to be explained to why it doesn't work in a vacuum.
No, because I want you to show me how it works in a vacuum.
There are, like Steve said,
I can show you
because rocket fuel shoots out one end of the rocket and propels the other end forward.
But it's in a vacuum. It's pushing against emptiness.
It's pushing against itself. It's not pushing against the air. The rocket fuel is shooting out. Listen, the rocket fuel.
Yourself.
Listen, the rocket fuel shooting out one end creates a force against the rocket and pushes the rocket in the other direction.
I got to think. Look, if you have a balloon and you blow up the balloon and you let it go, it's going to propel itself, right? That's going to work in a vacuum just as well because you have air coming out. It's still coming out. It still has a net thrust that way. Richard, have you ever heard of a free body diagram? Go learn what a free body diagram and then come back and run this argument. Trust me.
Working in a vacuum.
You know what? Go get a vacuum. Go get a vacuum chamber and try it out. And I tell you what. You do it in a vacuum, it doesn't work. You falsified all of physics and you win a Nobel. Simple as that. Yes. Go buy yourself a vacuum chamber.
Yep.
A lot of physics falsifies itself. Let's talk about temperature.
Go ahead. Talk about temperature. Go ahead. Let him talk about temperature because this is easy. I know.
It's just crazy you guys believe we went to the moon, but okay, let's talk about temperature. What is the temperature in the thermosphere?
About 3,000 degrees Celsius or something like that.
Okay. Now, what's going to survive in 3,000 degrees Celsius?
Okay. Do you want me to take this one? Because I can take this one.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You acting like I would know the answer to that?
Let me explain to him the thermosphere.
That's not in my contract.
The way temperature works, Richard, is it's based upon kinetic energy and the average kinetic energy of the system. So the molecules in the system are moving at a certain speed. That's kinetic energy. Because the thermosphere is at vacuum, there's not many molecules moving around, but the molecules that do exist are at a net energy of a few thousand degrees Celsius. But there's so few of them, they have no net effect on anything because there's no density of the molecules because you're at vacuum, which means there's no mass. So yes, it is a high temperature, which is kinetic energy, but it's not going to do anything because there's not enough particles to cause any major transfer of energy to the spacecraft.
That was well said, and that's exactly what I would have said too. By the way, Richard, I was thinking that's
exactly what it
was. Piled on it.
This is what NASA says.
This is kinetic.
No,
this is what scientists say. So are you
NASA
saying
is not look NASA is not responsible for all of science. Science has been happening for a very, very long time, well before the existence of NASA.
Do you expect everyone to know this like personally, Richard? Like, do you expect everyone to go out and perform their own experiments on every little thing, and until they do that, not be able to say this is what science is or this is what science says? I mean, is that realistic?
I'm a NASA shill.
What's not realistic is that you believe everything that science tells you.
Well,
Now, Steve, I'm asking a question.
Sure.
When you go these few molecules that don't produce enough heat in the temperature that you claim. I've heard that story 1,000 times. When you go to the moon, well, it's scientific propaganda. When you go to the moon and you land on the moon, right? What is the temperature on the moon?
Okay.
76.
It's probably near. No, it's probably 150 degrees below zero, something like that. Again, I'm just pulling these numbers out, but it's probably close.
What is the temperature? On the moon, are the molecules also so sparse that that there's no heat?
Okay, first of all, do you know what heat is in physics? Tell me what heat is.
I'm asking a question.
You always want to clarify your terms, so let's do this, because, by the way, I will tell you, I know this stuff works because I had a background in the subject, because I used to work with nuclear power plants. I know the physics works, especially when it comes to heat transfer. So let me ask you,
have you been to the moon?
What
Yes,
the physics works? Yeah, I actually been there a couple times. It was fun, actually. We party up there every week of the weekend. You come join us. We do it right by the little reflector thing.
I'm asking you, what was the temperature on the moon when the NASA astronaut?
I have no idea. I'm guessing around maybe 150 degrees below zero.
Do you know, Richard? Can you just tell us and avoid all of this?
Yeah, I mean,
in the sunlight, NASA says it was 250 degrees.
Okay.
In the shadow of the toy lunar module, it was minus 200 degrees. Now I'm asking you. I'm asking you a question now. In those temperatures, are you also claiming that the molecules are so sparse on the moon?
Yes.
You're also claiming that?
Do you know what? Again, temperature is a macro function of the kinetic energy across the distribution of the system. And that's a fancy way of saying the more dense something is, the more energy is in it. Okay? Heat, and this is where I think you get confused. Let me explain to you what heat actually is.
Steve, before you do that, can I see if I follow along here? Steve,
sure.
Is it because the Earth has an atmosphere and the moon doesn't?
There's a big factor of that. The atmosphere obviously has, I mean, obviously we're in an atmospheric condition where it's more dense, right? And there's very thin atmosphere on the moon, if any. So yeah, absolutely. But heat literally is the transfer of energy from one place to another. It is defined to be the transfer of thermal energy from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. So if you only have one molecule or one atom hitting something, you're not going to get that much of a heat transfer. As if you opposed to a million molecules, you can have a much greater heat transfer because the density is greater. So even wait, let me finish because you want to learn this stuff. So you have one or two atoms moving very rapidly, having a high kinetic energy, meaning high temperature. It's not going to be very detrimental. You don't have much thermal conductivity to hit, when it hits something. It's not going to conduct much radiation.
So okay? How do you measure that there are so few molecules in a vacuum?
You can vacuum is about a pure vacuum in space. The closest they could guess is about 1 proton every cubic centimeter.
How do you know space is a vacuum?
Because they've been up there.
How do you know?
Because I'm not an idiot. I don't know. What do you mean? How do you know? I read books. I read things. I understand the science. Chloe understands.
Because you believe in what scientists tell you. You've got no empirical evidence.
I do have the empirical evidence. I've done the experiments. I've done the testing.
Let's go over to Kaitlyn real quick and let her jump in.
Steve and I are scientists. Like that's what you're not getting, huh?
I'm not a scientist, but I have a science background. So do you.
Well, yeah. So we have science backgrounds. Like we know some science. We don't know everything, right? It's fine not to know everything. That's cool. But what you're saying here is that we don't know what we're talking about because we just believe NASA.
Right.
That's not true. No, I don't work for NASA, and I have please listen, and I have seen projectiles go into space and come back out. So I have seen this myself.
How have you seen it?
With her eyes? I don't. What do you mean? How'd she see it? She has two eyes.
How I've seen it?
No, I'm not asking you.
Watched it happen.
The question wasn't for you.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Where did you see this?
At my job.
Tell us what happened. How did you see it? What happened?
What do you mean?
Did they take you up? Did it take you up in a rocket?
No, you don't have to go up into space because we have radars and we have satellites and we have cameras and we can watch these things happen. We can record these things happening. So
when you have all these satellites in space and they take a photo of the Earth, there are no satellites visible. Satellites can't exist in like 4,000 degrees Celsius.
I just explained to you why they do.
Your explanation holds no water.
Okay, because basic physics is not a thing. Okay, great.
Okay.
No, basic physics has no. Your physics you're talking about does not have empirical evidence. It's mathematical hypothesis.
Okay, so what is
That's my problem.
If you're going to correct me, which is fine, I could be completely wrong, right? What is the formula for kinetic energy?
This is why I was nervous earlier, Richard.
Yeah, I understand.
Here's arguments. If you're going to correct me on what the temperature and kinetic energy is, do you know what the formula is for kinetic energy?
No, I don't.
Okay. I doubt you have the expertise to understand.
No, you claiming expertise.
I'm not claiming expertise. Oh, wait, let me correct you.
Without empirical evidence.
I am not an expert by any means, but I do understand basic physics.
No,
But there is empirical evidence. You just elect to reject it for whatever reason.
Tell me the empirical evidence. I'm all ears.
You can look it up. Look, for what specifically? There are millions of things that we have empirical evidence for. I don't know what you're looking for, but I think that here's what I want to know. Why would NASA or the government or the Illuminati or whoever the fuck, why would they lie about these things? I just like what is the motivation and what is the purpose for that?
The purpose is money.
And who gets money? Like, do I get money because I'm standing on here and like talking about rocket science? Does Steve get money because he's sitting on here talking about, propulsion?
Richard, hold on, Richard. Let me stop there, Richard. You know that NASA gets money, a budget, right? The government gives NASA the budget. NASA is part of the government, so it's just the government giving money back to itself.
Oh, by the way, I had to look it up. The thermistor is about 3.6 K Fahrenheit. But it's only about 2,000 degrees Celsius. I said 3,000 degrees Celsius. So, whatever. But it's fine.
The thermistor goes up to
NASA isn't the only agency out there that deals with space and satellites and rockets. Like it's not just NASA. There's a lot more, and a lot more than just the U.S. government. So I'm not really sure what
there are 500 people from 38 countries who've been to space. 72 different government space agencies. There are 34 private space agencies and 24.
They're global. They all work together. They're global. They all work together.
But
you seen? Okay. Hold on.
They have to be involved in that.
Hold on, Kyle. Hold on. Wait, I have to stop you. Hold on. You just said global. I thought that you believe in a flat Earth.
No, there's no globe. I'm talking your lingo.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's what the last person said too when they said Southern Hemisphere, but the world is flat. Okay.
Yeah. The flat earthers all around the world.
No, but
so they're part of some massive global, as we'll just use that term, organization. Who heads this, and why do the average people not know about it? How do they keep it a secret if it's so massive and substantial? Like,
it's not a secret anymore. It's come out.
It's not a secret. What's it called?
500 people, 38 countries, 72 different government space agencies.
They're all liars.
31 private ones. That's thousands. Did you know that NASA has 17,000 employees?
But this funny is you don't even need to believe anybody. Anybody can go out with 3 freaking sticks and see that the Earth is not flat. Or they can do a shovel.
Okay. We ain't got there yet.
You can make it well.
Okay.
That's all you have to do.
We're still on the moon. We're still on the moon. We haven't got to the Earth yet.
Okay, wait. I want to get there, but let's talk about radiation.
Oh, goody.
Okay, the Van Allen belt, right?
Just,
Well,
I got to warn you, I was radiologically certified in the military. Not that I remember much.
Now, yeah, sure.
Really, but
now,
go ahead. Radiation, good stuff. Yes.
Now, what shields the Earth from cosmic radiation?
Ozone layer?
Magnetosphere.
Magnetosphere? Yeah, I mean, combination. I mean, what are cosmic rays?
Magnetosphere. I think that he's looking for magnetosphere.
So they say that the atmosphere.
What is it?
The Earth's hang on, and the Earth's magnetic field.
Sure.
Well, not the atmosphere. The magnetosphere shields the atmosphere, because without the magnetosphere, it would sheathe off the atmosphere.
Right.
I think we still survive, but I mean, it definitely helps. But
no, we wouldn't.
I don't. Then you're saying if we didn't had a pole reversal and it went down to zero, we're all going to die, and that's not going to happen.
Go, Carl.
Not if they reverse. If the magnetosphere was gone, it would sheathe off.
It does actually go away for a while before it actually reverses.
Okay, so anyway.
Go ahead.
How do you know?
Okay, but
you just
how do we know what?
How do we know what? Yeah, this is like all epistemic questions. How do you know? Because we read.
How do we know what?
You're
the expert in everything, but Carl is saying to you something, and you just
describing what
Listen, no, Kyle is not the expert in a lot of things. I will readily admit that.
Carl, experts are not so expert in many things. You can't believe what an expert says because he's called an expert.
I don't. I believe what he says because I validate what he says, and I look into the information, and I went to school.
Wait.
Did you go to school? Not go to school?
We're talking about radiation.
What is cosmic radiation?
That's what we're talking about.
Okay, what is cosmic? What is cosmic radiation?
This radiation that is coming down to Earth from the sun.
No, that's not cosmic radiation. That's solar wind or solar.
We want to know if you understand what it actually is, and not the point that the talking point that you're going to bring up.
Cosmic radiation means a very specific thing. Cosmic radiation is not from the sun. Cosmic radiation is from outside the solar system.
Cosmos. The imaginary cosmos.
That's cosmic radiation. What is it comprised of, though?
But you're getting radiation from the sun as well.
What kind of radiation?
Scientists don't understand the sun.
What kind of radiation is cosmic radiation? Like, what is it?
Yeah, what's your point with the radiation? What can't radiation?
My point with the radiation is that the Earth, the Earth is shielded from the atmosphere and the magnetic field, right?
Right.
Does the moon have an atmosphere and a magnetic field?
I'm picking up some nervous energy from you right now, Richard. Just take a deep breath, and we're going to get through this, okay? Don't get flustered.
Yeah, don't get flustered. But I'm honestly asking.
No. I'll ask you a question. Don't.
Does the moon have an atmosphere? No,
yes,
it doesn't.
It has a very thin possible atmosphere.
A very thin one. It used to have an atmosphere.
Yeah. For all practices, you can say no, but whatever.
The moon has no atmosphere.
Fine.
Okay.
And it has no magnetic field.
Okay.
So what?
Actually, it does. It's just very weak.
Yeah,
it does have a magnetic field.
But how do you guys know that? How do you know that?
Because they've tested these things again.
How did they test it?
The magnetic.
Because they went to the moon and they took one of those horseshoe magnets and threw a magnet and then.
No,
there's the Hubble. There's the Hubble telescope. There's the International Space Station. There are telescopes out there that can detect these things. They have probes and they have instruments on them that can check these things. The International Space Station.
The Hubble telescope has no official date of launch.
Of course it does, because it had to go up there sometime.
This guy phoned NASA and he asked them for what the official date of launch is. So the Hubble, there is no Hubble there is no international. There's no International Space Station.
There is an International Space Station.
Yeah, I know.
There is an International Space Station. I have received a phone call from the International Space Station. I know people who have been on the International Space Station. I know where the supply building is that keeps all the shit that they shoot up there for the International Space Station.
Can I ask you a question?
Well, hang on, Richard. Let's hang on one sec, if I may. We also have somebody. Let me finish, please. We also have somebody in the live chat that has a video of the ISS transit with over 1 million views. It's the most popular ISS transit in the entire YouTube blogosphere, whatever.
CGI.
By the way,
wait, he has a standing offer. If you can prove to him it's CGI, I think he's gonna like delete his channel or something like that, or do some sexual crazy stuff with you. I don't know.
Reds, since you're watching, Reds, I need to actually talk to you. I'm glad you're watching. I need to, hold on 1 second, Richard. I got to do some business real quick. Reds, I actually need to talk to you. So email me or contact me after the show. I have something interesting for you coming up. Okay, Richard.
Show that his thing is CGI. Reds would invite you on his channel to do that at any time, I'm sure.
How does an astronaut on the International Space Station survive going 17,000 miles an hour?
How do you survive going 110 miles an hour in your car?
Wait. Don't be so quick to answer the question.
They're not that difficult questions.
They're not difficult questions. They are going the same. The International Space Station that they are in is going the same speed as they are. Their bodies are going the same speed as that because they're in it. Now, if the International Space Station were just to stop completely, yeah, right, their bodies would smack right up against the side. Like, you understand, like, and they were to keep moving. So you understand they're moving at the same rate as what they're in. Just like you do with a car, just like you do in any vehicle that you're in. It's the same as any other vehicle. Same as you can fly a plane, fly in a plane at a few hundred miles an hour in the sky.
Yes.
Can you throw a ball? Can you throw a ball and catch it on a train?
Airplanes in the sky, right?
Can you throw a ball and catch it on a train, Richard? Can you throw a ball and catch it on a train?
I want to talk about that.
There's a little bit of lag, and Richard, hang on a sec. He asked you a question because there's lag. If you're on a train,
wait?
Hang on, he asked you a question.
Yeah, Richard, we're gonna get to your point. I promise. I'm gonna give you all the time in the world that you want. If you're on a train traveling at however fast trains go, and you throw a ball up in the air, will you be able to catch it?
Yeah, because the train is an enclosed system.
So is the ISS.
So is the ISS.
The ISS doesn't exist.
Jesus fucking bloody hell. Can we find something else?
Richard, are you being real?
I think he's got to be a pro at this point. Oh my God.
Can you travel in a car going 17,000 miles an hour?
Yes.
If it went fast enough.
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay, let me make this very simple. Okay, velocity, which is a magnitude of speed with a vector direction, doesn't do shit. Okay, you aren't going to notice if you're at a constant velocity. If you're accelerating, that's when you notice. And acceleration is defined as a change of velocity, which is either a change in the magnitude of speed or the direction. So if all of a sudden, like she said, you stopped or you went like a 90-degree angle, yeah, those people are going to get screwed. Okay, they're going to be flat because it's a change in the velocity because due to acceleration. And by the way, people have corrected me on that last time. Thank you. I won't make that mistake again because I kept saying change of acceleration. There is something called change of acceleration. That's called jerk. Okay. It really is. It's called jerk. It is called jerk, but I'm not making that up. But it is the change of velocity, which is the acceleration. So as long as you are at a constant velocity, you won't even notice it.
You can go at constant velocity in an airplane at 17,000 miles an hour and not burn up.
Why not?
You're going 16. How fast does the Earth spin, Steve?
1,600 miles per hour.
You're going that fast right now. Can you feel it?
The Earth is dead still. It does not spin.
Can I ask you a question? Do you believe that it has
can you provide
the
evidence
legs
of
underneath
that?
it? Or, I want to find out if you're this kind of flat earther. Do you believe that it has the desk legs underneath the flat Earth?
I have no clue what it has underneath the flat Earth, and the globalists have no clue what's inside the Earth.
Yes, we do.
No, you don't.
It's spewing outside of Hawaii right now.
Yeah, we do.
There's video of that. Do you think that's CGI? For 3 weeks, they've been doing nothing but CGI and lava spewing out of the Hawaii.
So the lava spewing out of the Earth. So what is inside the Earth? Lava? Is that what you're saying?
No,
you have an iron core.
There.
That's not all that's there, but yes, there is magma inside the Earth.
Where do you think?
What else?
It's not that deep either. Magma chambers are not that deep. They're not like in the mantle.
So what else?
So where do you, if on a I have a question. So on a flat Earth, since we're currently watching volcanoes erupt and fissures open in the Earth in Hawaii, where does all of that come from in your flat Earth model?
Look, you must understand one thing. I don't have a flat Earth model. The globe model is fake.
So
okay,
what is your model?
You know what? You can laugh at everything, but it doesn't make you clever.
So what model do you?
Clever. No.
So what model do you subscribe to? What do you think the Earth is like?
Yeah,
I don't subscribe to any model.
So it's non-shaped.
Okay, well, what do you think? Then what do you think the Earth is like?
If I test the Earth, I can see that if the Earth is supposedly the circumference is 25,000 miles, then the Earth must curve 8 inches every mile squared.
Oh, God.
So you believe? So you subscribe?
Nonsense, man.
Because here's what I noticed.
Hold on, Steve. I'm confused. I want to clear something up real quick. I don't understand how you cannot have your own opinion or view on a model how the Earth is, and then criticize others who do have reasons for why they believe that it's a globe. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
The answer is, I look at the model, the globe model, and I see all the flaws in the globe model.
But you haven't named one yet.
Why should I've named plenty already? There is no curvature. Look, science says that the Earth should curve 8 inches every mile squared. I didn't invent that.
Do you know what that means? Do you know the math behind what a parabola is or parabolic curve?
Never mind what a parabola is.
Okay. Oh, never mind what the math says. Oh, I'm just going to throw this number out there.
But you brought up the equation. Listen, you brought up the equation.
Everybody chill out. 1 second. Let's take a step back, okay?
Kyle, do you see what Steve is doing?
Richard, let me address the problem issue. Let me address the issue, okay? There is tension between you and Steve because you keep making shots back and forth with each other, and I understand that because this is a passionate issue for you, Richard. I understand. Richard, hold on 1 second. Let me finish. Richard, please let me fucking finish, okay? I want this to be a conversation that is it advances. I want it like everybody's opinion to be put out there, and I want the exchange of ideas to be, fluid. So I'm going to ask everybody in here to let everybody get their statement out. We will go as long as we have to, but Richard's kind of cadence is spacey. So he needs to, he's going to bring up a point and then he's going to bring up another point. Some people just have that kind of lag in how I used to have it too. But let the thought come out and then we'll rebut and back and forth. But this back and forth between, the old gods and Richard coming back to Steve and saying that Steve doesn't know what he's talking about, that does nothing for the overall conversation. And as entertaining as these are, I also want people to walk away with a clear understanding at the end of it. Okay? So state your case, and then we'll let everybody talk. But I want it to be civilized as much as it can be. Okay?
Steve considers himself, he's not in here to learn anything or to share anything. He's in here to be the judge, the expert, and he's not looking for any empirical evidence. He's looking for his mathematical hypothesis evidence.
You have to understand this, Richard. Okay, let me stop you there. Let me stop you there. Steve Steve may be a little snarky today, but I've just asked nicely. I've just asked nicely for him to kind of come around to explaining things in a way that his intention is to teach you. It is not to cut you down. I promise you that.
I don't want.
And he knows. And listen to me. He knows a lot. You can actually learn something during this conversation. You don't have to walk away with just having to say I don't know all the time. Just listen to him. I've addressed it, Richard. I'm going to ask that we all move on from this point and everybody kind of be civilized in a way. But you can learn something if you listen.
So can you. So
okay,
can
I'm
you.
not saying that I can't. I'm not saying that
So
I can't.
can
But so
Steve.
far,
Steve can also learn something.
Sure, but so far you haven't presented anything that refutes the positions that we come from. If you do, I will be the first to say. I'll be the first to say that you're right. But you haven't.
Can I add something to this real quick, Kyle?
Earth
please?
has no visible curvature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kyle, let me add something to this. Richard, I've been doing this a very long time. You have not brought anything to the table that I've not heard of before at all. If you want to teach me something directly relating to actual science. You have not brought me. Let me finish. I don't have a slow cadence like you. I talk. I do not have a slow cadence. I'm talking. So let me finish before I end, because you have a very slow cadence. I do not. I try to get out a lot of information very quickly because I get interrupted often by people like you. So let me finish this, okay? I can learn many new things. I like learning. But everything you've brought to the table, I've already addressed many times over the past God knows how many years. There's nothing new whatsoever. Now, if you wanted to talk about science, I would highly suggest going to school, learning the science the way science is meant to be learned correctly. And if you think you could debunk it and win the Nobel Prize, bless your little heart.
Can I talk now, Carl?
Oh,
yeah.
I think KC was trying to talk. We've been.
Okay, KC,
I have a question for you, Richard. You keep bringing up empirical evidence. Okay, you keep using that word, empirical evidence, and then when Steve talks about math and other kinds of experiments and observations that you can use to prove things, that's empirical evidence. So can you please define what you think empirical evidence is?
Steve has never spoken about any sort of empirical evidence whatsoever.
Can you please define? Let's stop talking about Steve, okay? Will you please define empirical evidence?
Empirical evidence is when you have an hypothesis and you can back it up with direct observation.
Okay.
And that's empirical evidence. There's evidence that backs up a mathematical formula equation. Much of science is based on mathematical equations, not on empirical evidence. I mean, Tesla. You know who Tesla was?
Yes,
Nikola Tesla.
Yeah, well, Tesla said this like 100 years ago, that science 100 years ago, science was not interested in empirical evidence anymore.
Okay,
that's one man's opinion. That's not evidence. That's not an example of evidence, Richard.
I still don't know what he means by empirical. What do you
Trump
mean by
said
empirical?
He has words. He has all the best words.
But did he answer Casey's question though? What do you mean by empirical? I really do want to know what you mean by that, because when we're talking about things like linear conservation of momentum and rockets, that's empirical stuff. Now, the formulas are more abstract. Mathematics is abstract, sure, but they are intricately related to each other. So
what empirical evidence have you got that man went to the moon, landed on the moon? I'm asking you simple questions. I say to you,
we have
what was the temperature?
Records. We have the video footage. We have the.
It's all CGI fake.
From the 60s,
you have what proof do you have? First of all, CGI did not exist then.
No, not even remotely.
And secondly, what evidence do you have that these things are faked? Please provide empirical evidence that you have that all of this documentation that we have from NASA, from other government agencies, and from third parties that prove that this happened. Please provide evidence that is all wrong.
All right. The first line of evidence is there is no atmosphere on the moon, and there is no magnetic field.
Well, we've already demonstrated that's wrong. There is a magnetic field.
Steve, let him talk.
Now, you see, Steve can't keep quiet for a second. So the radiation, there's no shielding of radiation for astronauts who claim they were on the moon.
Okay, so they have suits that protect them from the radiation. They're specifically built for that.
Teflon suits. That's
okay.
I like you, but that's ridiculous.
Okay, so
the suits cannot protect you.
Again, this is why
No. A suit cannot protect you from deadly cosmic.
What makes it deadly? This is why I wanted to clarify. You said it's cosmic radiation. What is the deadly cosmic radiation? Give me what they're comprised of. No, we're not going to go. We're not going to go any further until you tell me what the cosmic radiation primarily consists of. Because this is your argument. They couldn't survive it. Well, you should be able to tell me what cosmic radiation is primarily consist of.
That's a fair question.
You refuse to answer the question because you don't know.
I do know what's comprised of. I'm asking you.
You don't know.
Richard, he's asking you that because there's a reason why he's asking you that, Richard, and this is so frustrating.
No.
Please, for my health, please just try to follow along with me, okay? He wants to know what you think cosmic radiation is comprised of.
Exactly.
Because for two reasons. He's going to explain why they're able to do that, number one. And number two, if you don't know what it's comprised of or what it is, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I couldn't answer that question, and I'm perfectly fine with being able to say that I have no idea. But if you can't answer that, then you can't bring that argument to the table because you don't even know what you're dealing with.
No, you're trying to get rid of a simple question.
No, I'm not. We want to go into the question. We want to explain to you why it works, but you're not. It's so frustrating. We're not avoiding the question. Steve's going to explain to you why that is the case. We just need to understand that you know what it is in the first place.
Yeah. So Richard, can you tell just forget Steve exists. Most of us try to do that all the time. Anyway, what is cosmic radiation?
You see,
can you tell me what cosmic radiation is and why it's deadly?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, scientists say that there's radiation from the sun and there's radiation from the cosmos, and they tell us that it's deadly.
So you believe scientists on this thing, but you don't believe scientists on other things. So can you explain where that line is and what makes you believe one thing and not another thing?
Yes, I want to explain that.
Okay, I'd love to understand.
I want to explain that.
Sure.
I'm taking what science says, and I'm showing you all the contradictions in science. Science does not back up what it says. It contradicts itself. Okay. That's simple. That's simple.
May I?
Yeah, okay. Let's let Steve talk now.
Richard,
no, I don't think
Richard,
so.
First of all, if you do not know what cosmic rays are comprised of, then you really don't have an argument. First of all, it's protons. High energy protons is vastly the majority.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Don't ask me how I know. Learn something.
I'm asking you how you know.
No, we're not playing this epistemic game of how do you know. Okay, that's like presuppositional bullshit. You want to learn the science. If you want to learn the science,
papers and journals and peer review.
This is not contentious shit. Trust me. Okay.
That's your belief.
Let me
believe in science.
Let me explain
your religion.
Richard, now you're just being a Poe. Let me explain this to you very basically. For the people in the audience, radiation is like this. You have three major things that can help alleviate radiation. Okay, and I have a nuclear engineer in the audience right now that went to the same school that I did, had the same training that I did on radiological control, so he can validate for this. It's called time, distance, and shielding. Okay, so that means how long of exposure you are exposed to the radiation. It means the distance you have to the radiation, and depending on what's called a line source or plane source or point source. And then you have the shielding that you have between you and the radiological source. Between those three factors, you have what's called a stay time. And a stay time is your max amount of dose you can have for radiation within a certain parameter. Okay, you have your daily, you have a weekly, you have a yearly, and you have a lifetime threshold of how much radiation you can have by the standards of OSHA and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. These you can measure. You can actually have a little thing called a pocket dosimeter and look right through it, and it'll tell you in real time what your average millirem exposure is.
So I want to ask you a question.
Let me finish before you ask me a question. The amount of exposure they had was nominal because of their stay time and their shielding. It was not enough to affect them in any way, great shape, or form. Matter of fact, you get more radiation exposure traveling in a plane, traveling from New York to LA, going at 30,000 feet than you would probably what they got. And they went through the Raynaud's radiation belts at a low minimum of where the belts are. And again, time, distance, shield.
Where is the low minimum of the radiation belt?
Okay, if you look at the Earth and you look at the radiation belts, it's like right over here. They actually show you exactly where it went through. There's a diagram for that. It's out there. Go look.
This is just your you believe whatever they tell you. But my question to you, which you have not answered yet. Wait.
No disrespect.
Guys, we cannot keep talking over each other. This is getting so aggravating.
I want to ask you a question, Steve.
Just let him ask his question, Steve. For God's sakes, please, just let him ask his question.
I love you, Kyle.
On the Disney moon landing, where the astronauts pretended to be on the moon, there was no atmosphere on the moon. There was no magnetic field to shield the radiation. How did the astronauts survive this radiation?
He just answered that. And to answer your earlier question, the Hubble launched on April the 24th of 1990.
There you go. And by the way, I want you to know,
there's no official record.
Richard, I've actually done these equations in my life. I don't remember how to do them right now, but I have actually done these equations of how to measure exactly what your radiation is given these conditions. And I can tell you right now, it's not enough to kill you.
I'm trying so hard to keep it together right now. Richard, you can't say no. It doesn't. Richard, listen. Oh my God. It doesn't work. None of it works that way. None of it.
It's like that commercial with the old lady with Twitter.
You can't have somebody explain to you how things work in a detailed way that anybody can kind of follow along, and then say, well, how do you know? Because he's done the equations. And the thing is, you don't have a rebuttal to it other than to say,
I do.
Richard,
equations without any empirical evidence.
I possibly can here, but it's getting to a ridiculous level. I want some evidence that, hold on, Steve. I want some evidence that is proof that the Earth is flat or that we didn't land on the moon. So far, all you're saying is no, and how do you know, and I don't know.
And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of how we know this works with evidence.
That's not true. I've asked you many questions which you refuse to answer.
We answered your questions, man.
Stop. I'll ask another one now. I'll ask another one.
He answered your question every single time.
Over 60. No, he didn't answer the question.
All right, let's just get to the next question. Go ahead, Richard. Please ask another question.
His answer to the question was preposterous.
Okay, it was preposterous. Steve's an idiot. Can we move on to the next question, please?
Okay. All right. Let me ask you, Casey.
Okay. All right. I'm ready. Steve, stop talking.
Steve's got an ego complex, superiority complex. So now listen.
Well, Casey, let's stop talking about Steve. Let's stop talking about Steve and let's ask Casey a question.
If the Earth is 25,000 miles in circumference, then it should have a curve of 8 inches every mile squared.
Okay.
Yes or no?
Well, no. I mean, that's not exactly correct. No. So can you explain how that equation works?
I'm saying this is a scientific data. That's what the scientists tell us.
Okay, so if the scientists tell us that, and you're banking on that, right? You're making an argument based off of that, correct? Is that what's happening right now?
I'm saying let's say over 40 miles. What should the curvature be over 40 miles on a globe?
I mean, I guess it would depend on where you are on the globe because it's an oblate spheroid, so it would depend. But
that's where you are.
What?
Let's say from where you are.
Okay, but I'm also not a mathematician. So like I don't know what you're looking for, but what I'm asking, I'm trying to get to your method. So you know my intentions here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to your method. So you want to use this mathematical equation, right, to determine curvature, though it doesn't always work. But you don't want to use other mathematics that do work. Where do you draw your line on what is scientifically good and what is scientifically bad?
Now, I just want to take the mathematics and show that the mathematics contradict them itself. That's all I'm trying to do in this one example.
Okay, so
I just want to know. I've asked Steve this question as well.
Oh, I can answer this question. I'm just letting KC when I know this one too. Trust me. It's a main staple of flat earthers because they don't understand certain things.
Make it brief, Steve, please.
Over 40 miles.
Sure.
Over 40 miles. How much?
The rule of thumb is this is a generally surveying question for geodesy, where you have a drop of about 8 miles per square. But however, that doesn't translate when you're actually looking at something over a direct line of sight. So if I'm looking at the curvature of the Earth like this, okay, the average drop for a 6-foot person should, I think it's like 24 feet. If I remember correctly, it's basically 3 inches for every mile, give or take. If I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember. It's that if you remember the experiment that they did with the Hawking experiment, Richard, and the Hawking experiment takes a laser and shines it, and right. So the drop is basically at 3 miles. I think it's 24 feet, give or take. At
10 miles, it's 66 feet. At 20 miles, it's 266 feet.
No, it's not 266 feet at 2 miles. It's I think it's like
10 miles is 10 times 10 times 8.
Okay, but again, at 2 or 3 miles.
Inches divided by 12.
They've done this experiment where they literally can take a stick and measure from a boat 2 miles out on a lake, shine a laser that's only a few inches off the ground, and there's a drop about 6 to 8 feet, give or take. Okay, that would only happen on a curved Earth. This whole 8 mile per square thing is nothing that you have any understanding of because it's a general just rule of thumb that surveyors use to get a general perspective depending on the terrain. As Casey notes, terrain is different. There's not always this universal drop that you're trying to promote, and you're trying to think that for some reason in your head you think there's a drop. If I'm standing here, then if I go 1 mile, I should be like 600 feet lower there or something. It doesn't work that way. That's why we wanted to explain to you things like a parabola or basic math. You're throwing things out there that I don't think you have any explanation of or any concept of why you're even throwing that out there. You seem to have read Eric DeBay's 200 things why the Earth is flat. Go watch some YouTube videos, and you think you know more than
200 examples.
Yeah, and they're all shit.
They're garbage. Eric DeBay is ridiculous.
Eric DeBay copied everything from what's that?
Zettetus.
Yeah. So he just copied it all down from.
Let me ask you a question, Richard, so that we can kind of find some middle ground here. It's twofold. Number one, why the lie about the shape of the Earth? In what grand scheme of things does that really change anything? And number two, where's the edge? And why haven't anybody got any kind of even a picture of anywhere near the edge or something like the edge, the big ice wall, the drop off, whatever it is?
What is the first part to the question?
Why lie about it? Of all the things that they could get away with lying about, why the shape of the Earth? Why does that ultimately matter in the grand scheme of things?
Well, 500 years ago, Copernicus invented this idea, mathematical idea, that the Earth is a globe.
That's actually inaccurate. 1800 years prior to Copernicus, it was suggested that we were heliocentric. So it didn't get much legs. But do you know the reason why we figured out that it was wrong?
Wrong for what?
Why the model?
Like why we figured out that the geocentric model was wrong? Do you know why we figured out that was wrong?
Well, I'm talking about Copernicus inventing the heliocentric model.
But she's asking you, why is the heliocentric model we accepted? Why did the geocentric model fail to account for certain things? What was it failing to account for?
I don't know the geocentric model.
Good answer.
What it was failing to
Casey, please explain.
What was it failing to account for?
Okay, so there were several issues with the geocentric model, and they were actually having problems with the tables that they used from the Greek astronomers. They were having trouble with the tables for eclipses and the tables for equinoxes. And so the time thing was figured out later when they redid the calendar, but it made them go back and look for inconsistencies in the models that they were using, the geocentric models that they were using. So Copernicus said he came up with the heliocentric model where the Earth was the center and all of the planets that we knew of at the time that they could observe with their naked eye were going around in a circular orbit. Okay, well, that only fixed some of the problems because from there, it still didn't answer the fact that the data collected from astronomers on planetary positions still didn't match up. Okay, and basically Ptolemy he explained the inconsistencies in the orbits because you would see with the geocentric model, you would see how the planets would basically retrograde in the sky, which Ptolemy said was I forget what they're called.
Epicycles.
Epicycles, thank you. Ptolemy said they were epicycles. Well, so when you put the sun in the center, you fix that problem. You fix that orbital problem, but it still didn't account for the problem with planetary positions in the sky. So I think it was it Kepler who came up with the elliptical model, the elliptical orbit model, which was later confirmed by Newton.
Yeah, I think that's pretty well close to spot on. I mean,
ask Godless engineer what Tacitus would say about
Josephus. Ptolemy, the Ptolemy model. Look at even if the model did work, right? The epicycles, called the retrograde epicycles, would be so complicated to the point it would be a very unwieldy model. And so even if it explained the same thing we can do with just elliptical models, right, then you wouldn't ever use it because of law of parsimony, which is Occam's razor. With flat earthers love that. Oh, Occam's razor. In this case, it would be Occam's razor. The simplest solution, with the assumption, without the least amount of assumptions, is the one you use if they both explain it. Yes, you theoretically could design a system for geocentric using retrograde motion in epicycles, but it would be so unwieldy, so complicated, so unnecessary that we'd throw away that hypothesis. Is it possible? Yes. And you could use what's called Galilean transforms to make a geocentric model? Yes. Why bother?
Yeah, but now we know that. Hold on. Now that we know that, I don't want to get away, Richard, from my original question.
Okay.
I've never had a flat earther yet that I think can answer this that makes any sense. Why the lie about the shape of the Earth?
Okay, the lie is for control.
Okay, let me stop you there. Why? How would that play into control? Like, in what way would that make life different?
And who's controlling? Who's controlling? Also, who's controlling?
Okay, there are certain people who do control the monetary aspects of our world. There are the bankers, the elite, and the corporations. We all know that. That's not a secret.
Okay,
and it's all about.
Mike, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole of conspiracies. I want to know how. Listen, I want to know how. Whether it's round or whether it's flat.
God damn it! No, move out! No.
Illuminati.
Cover's blown.
Well done. Well done.
God,
I want to know.
Don't listen to this Richard guy. He doesn't know what you're talking about.
Thank you, Illuminati.
You know what?
I want to know.
Sorry, Xenu.
Okay. Calm down, everybody. I want to know why, Richard. I want to know why the shape of the Earth has anything to do with control. Like whether it's flat or round. How does that give or take power from anyone?
Okay. Hundreds of years ago, religion was in control of Earth. You believed that there was a God, Jesus, and you had to believe that. That was the indoctrination from the school system. Now the indoctrination, the new religion, is pseudoscience. This heliocentric religion.
Heliocentrism is not pseudoscience.
Now science makes a whole packet load of cash from what it does, from the governments.
Really?
Hold on, everyone. I know that you want to jump in, and we're going to get there, I promise.
Money. I'm just asking. Can you please define pseudoscience?
Pseudoscience is any science without empirical evidence.
And we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there, Richard. But I want to know how the shape of the Earth has anything to do with control, or why they would lie about that.
The shape of, if you believe the Earth is a globe and you're flying around the sun, at 67,000 miles an hour, then you are not able to think independently. You're a slave to the system.
But you can independently verify those things. There are experiments that you can do on your own and independently verify those things. So what I would recommend is you do those things.
No, there's no experiment that you can do to have.
Yes,
to
there
have.
are.
You want to bet?
Yeah, I want to bet. I want to bet.
You lose.
Losing your imagination.
Okay. So I see. I've already forgot the second part of my question. What was the second part?
Why
of my
would they
question?
lie? Something. Who
And
has the
then-
money?
Motivation. It's money.
Motivation.
And
Blah blah blah. Alien, reptilian, Xeno.
Live chat. I'm phoning a
Carl,
friend. Remind me what the second part of my brain is so gone right now.
Where's the edge? You asked where's the edge.
Yeah,
where's the edge? Good. Yes, this is a good question. Where's the edge? What is the edge? Have you seen it? Are there pictures of it?
I have no idea.
I think that's the general theme of this conversation.
Yeah, I think that's about right. You don't.
No, I have no idea what the Earth looks like. I know that the Earth is flat. You guys.
Wait. You just said before you didn't know the shape of the Earth.
Hold on.
Wait, hey, no, I'm not going to get away with that. He said before.
No, he's not going to get away. He's not going to get away with it. But he's not going to get away with answering the question that I asked first, and that is, what is on the edge? Is it ice? Is it a drop off?
Now he misses flat. Now he misses flat. Okay, great.
There's a model. The flat Earth model says that the Earth is, Picardi, who went up in Picardi.
Yes, balloonist.
He went up in his balloon or whatever, and he said,
"Hold on, Steve. Let him finish, please. For
God's sake, Steve can't let anyone finish. He said
finish talking.
The edges were turned up, but
that's not what he said.
That's what he said. I mean, you laugh at everything, but
you investigated the story?
Hold on, please. Steve, I didn't hear a word he said. Please let the man finish. Let him finish the thought, because I want this to be fair. I think we've got enough evidence on our side anyway, so it's already a handicap. But at least let him get his thought out so that I can understand what he's saying, please.
Carl, you've got no evidence on your side. You've got no empirical evidence that the
Tell him
Earth
about
is
Picard.
A globe.
Listen to me, Richard. Richard, what is on the edge?
Mathematical equations. That's all you've got that you believe in.
What is on the edge? What is on the edge?
Nobody knows.
What is on the edge?
No, he answered. No, he has no idea. So tell him about the balloon.
I know that the Earth. I know the Earth has no visible curvature.
How do you know?
Through my senses.
Through your senses.
Your senses trump mathematical equations.
Your feelings.
Your peer review articles.
Wait. You guys are you're mocking ABC.
We absolutely are, because it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that you think that can be passable as evidence, saying that I can sense it. That's utter bullshit. We're giving you equations, and there are peer review articles, and they can be backed up. And you want to come at us with, I can feel it, I can sense it. Get the fuck out of here.
It's sight, man. It's sight. You can see 60. If you can see 60 miles without any curvature, you can see the Chicago skyline.
Oh, for fuck's sake! I'm done. No, let me finish here. You know what? Hang on. No. I gotta tell you. He is pulling out. Hang on. I don't believe this guy.
After you get done, just mute out, and that's fine.
All right. I do not believe this guy for a second. He is giving us literally textbook flat Earth. One by one, he's going down a list, and it literally is every single flat Earth canard out there. Everything's been addressed before. The Picard, John Picard, Luke Picard, and the balloon been addressed. The Chicago skyline, refraction, been addressed. Anybody going to watch any of these videos? There's no sense to continue this on with him, because everything he throws out there, all we got to say is, you know what? You can easily go research this and find out that it's full of shit. He has not brought in anything to the table we have not heard before. So why bother with this?
Carl.
That's a good question. I'd like to know the answer to that.
I want something new. Give me something new.
Carl, refraction over 60 miles. Refraction does not account for 2,400 feet.
Do you know what Snell's law is?
He just explained to you about all the factors that go in with that. The terrain.
Yeah, what atmospheric ducting is, or do you know what Snell's law is, or do you know what refraction is? You've never taken a physics course, and you're trying to tell people about science. Wait, have you taken a physics course?
No, I haven't taken it.
You know what? Shut the fuck up at this point. I'm done.
You shut the fuck up.
So I have a question.
Listen,
can
we're
I,
not.
Richard,
yeah, you can. You can, Kaitlyn. You can. You absolutely can. 1 second. I don't want to devolve into that here, please. All right. It's already enough. I don't want that kind of show. I don't want that kind of show.
Tell your buddy Peter not to say that.
Let's.
First of all, I've been trying to correct you, and we've been trying to explain to you, and all you've been doing is trying to demean what we've been trying to tell you and bring up every single canard there is. I've asked you very nicely. Bring us something to the table we haven't heard before. Bring us something unique.
Many things.
We're both going to shut up. We're both going to shut up, and we're going to let Kaitlyn ask you a couple questions so that we can have a cool down period for a second. And Kaitlyn, you and Kaitlyn can have a conversation, and then we'll pick up from there. Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, so you seem really keen on like what you can see, right? So how do you explain ships going over the horizon? How do you explain that happening?
Yeah, when a ship goes over the horizon, and then you take with a naked eye, you see the ship going over the horizon. Then you take a zoom, and then the ship reappears.
It doesn't actually.
It does actually.
Never.
That's not how any of that works.
No.
And I was in the Navy. I can tell you it doesn't work that way.
That's exactly how it works.
Let's do this.
Okay, Steve, we're gonna let Kaitlyn take this one for a little bit. Okay, I don't want it.
I'm not going to explain it. I'm not going to explain it to him. I really don't have any interest in explaining things to him because it seems, Richard, that everything that we say you simply reject. Although you don't have an educational background in any of these things, and you don't have any explanation to replace the current models. So, whatever's currently understood based on our observations of reality and empirical evidence, because there is empirical evidence, you might reject it. I'm speaking, you might reject it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Okay. So I really don't have any interest in explaining things to you because I don't think you're going to, I just want to know, I just want to know where so you're basically claiming that you don't know how anything works.
Here we go, Kaitlyn. Here's a question. Richard, have you done any experiments yourself to prove that the Earth is flat?
Well, he already said he hasn't.
Yeah.
You haven't. Okay. So
no experiments, no education. So how about we just do this?
No,
let me finish. Let me finish for a change. Let me finish. I'm going to talk anyways. Let me finish for a change.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Calm down. We're not.
So let me my statement. I'm going
to give you a chance for him to respond to you.
Hey, Richard.
What I don't want this to do is evolve into where it's going. Everybody, calm down.
Now where we're all stressed out.
You guys are fighting against each other.
We are not fighting against each other at all.
It's so funny.
We're not. No, we're not.
I'm not
stopping him from saying anything. I'm trying to get it to where we don't talk over each other. Okay, I'm not stopping him from talking.
Carl, Steve has a problem with emotional intelligence.
Listen.
He doesn't understand how to have a conversation.
Okay, I'm going to end it, Richard. If you can't let me finish, I'm going to end it. Okay, I'm not stopping Steve from talking, Richard. I'm wanting everybody to calm down so that we don't talk over each other, because out there listening to this, it's annoying as fuck when people talk over each other. I can't let me. God, I was just talking about people not talking over me, and let me explain something real quick, okay? Because I'm getting fucking pissed off. When I pause, that doesn't mean I'm done. I'll nod or something when I'm done. But we're not doing this talking over shit. Or I'll end the fucking stream right now, because it does nothing but aggravate people who are trying to listen to this. Now, if everybody here can't have an adult conversation and stop this bullshit, then we're going to end it, and I'm fine with that. Doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter to me.
Me
but
too.
When other people are talking, shut the fuck up, everybody. Clear?
I'm down with that.
Now go, Richard.
What I'm saying is very simple. There are mathematical equations that are not backed up by empirical evidence. So if you see a ship go over the horizon, and then with a naked eye, and then you take some binoculars or a zoom lens or whatever, and you look at that ship, it will reappear. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, you done speaking now? Because that's absolute bullshit. Matter
You
fact,
see,
well, okay, you just interrupted me.
Richard,
I just asked if you were done.
I'm not done.
Okay, go ahead. Let me know.
Paul.
I'll tell you what. You tell me when you're done, and then we're going to explain it to you, and then we'll move on to other things, because I think Casey is exactly right. This is no point to explain to you shit that you're not going to understand and you don't want to understand. So you be done. You take your time, finish your sentence, and then let me know when you're done, please.
Carl, Peter is a presenter with you. You have no idea what he's doing on your show.
Who the fuck is Peter?
I mean, Steve.
Who the fuck is Steve? I don't even exist.
Okay. Well, I do know what Peter is doing. Peter is frustrated at him trying to explain things to you, which I understand.
Steve,
and
that's
in
the
these
other
type
guy
of
you're having a
situations,
conversation with.
people get excited, and just because Steve is excited and wants to get his point across, it does not mean that I don't know what Steve is doing. I completely understand where he's coming from. I'm just trying to, for everybody's sake who is going to listen to this, have a show that doesn't consist of people garbling their words over top of each other, because I listen to shows that do that, and it's annoying, and I hate it. So therefore, I'm trying to put myself in their position. Steve and I are on the same page here. There is no...
But Steve shouted an expletive at me.
Oh God, an expletive.
Okay, so
and what?
Children. Okay,
I mean,
there's really no reason to do this point. He did this, he did that tattletale game. If you'd like to have an adult conversation, we can continue with that. But if you want to just complain about Steve, or Steve, if you just want to complain about
I'm not complaining about anything. This is great.
Peter, if you just...
Carl,
but here's the thing. Let's have an adult conversation, okay. and you can. Will you please stop interrupting? So let's have a conversation, and you make your point, because Steve thought you were done. Which, to be fair, so did I, because you paused for a very long time. So here's what we're gonna do. When you're finished with whatever point you're making, say I'm finished. And then Steve will respond, because Steve is an incredibly intelligent guy. So he has important things. I am speaking right now.
Richard, if you the next time we're dropping you off the call,
you can drop me if you want to, Paul.
Just drop him. Just drop him. David, or whatever. Okay.
Wow.
God, Peter, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I know, fuck Peter, man. Just blame Peter for shit, man. Damn Peter. Look, again, I see no purpose to carry on a conversation when you want to have an intelligent conversation with somebody of that level of being just throw shit out there, not listen to an explanation. And he was literally going down a list. I find it to be very dishonest and very duplicitous. He didn't want to listen to anything I had to say, Casey had to say, or anything of that nature. And when we did give him an explanation, it was just moved on to the next thing. Right, and I was been happy to address each thing point by point. What's the last thing he brought up, by the way, Casey? Do you remember?
So you please explain when you see a ship go over the curvature of the Earth and you zoom in and it reappears.
Okay, what he's saying is this: when you have the horizon, you have a ship like this. Okay, you only have so much visual acuity. So when you're zooming in on something, you're seeing a bit what's actually there, light's traveling from there, but you're seeing a little bit bigger section of it because you're zooming in on it. If that portion has gone below the horizon, no matter how much you zoom in, except for atmospheric ducting and refraction, but if that part has gone below the horizon, you can zoom in with the most powerful telescope on the planet. You're never going to see it because it's below the horizon. Period.
I have dealt with several characters on this show. I'm fine with weird ideas. I love the shows where we're talking about aliens and Bigfoot. But just because you have a weird idea, that doesn't bother me or scare me, and I don't mind talking about it. But one thing I will not put up with is the over talking after I have explained it 9,000 times, because despite what's going on in here, we have an audience that listens to this. And there are two things to this show that I want to make clear for future reference. This show is entertaining, yes, and I want it to be entertaining. I also want it to, at times, to be educational, and I want it to be true. And when you have somebody that is coming to the table he's making all these claims and he can't back up anything, he doesn't have a word to back up anything he was saying. It's hard in that environment when you're explaining things to keep your cool. And I don't want people that are listening to this to hear a show where it's just a constant over-talking. You can't understand what anybody's saying, and you let people get away with just stating something and backing away from it. And I hated to boot him, but that's my threshold. You can be as crazy and as batshit fucked, and God knows we've had them. We've had them on here.
Last week we had the guy who drinks his own piss and has for 8 years.
Awesome. I like, but he was way better than this.
We even talked for like a half hour afterward.
Yeah.
Like I got on, it was GE stream, but I got on afterward and talked to him for like a half hour.
The ideas don't bother me. I'm fine with, like, in fact, the crazier the idea you have, I want it. I want to get on here and talk to you. But I don't want to have somebody that is one of two things. Either he's so incredibly dumb that he understands nothing and is unwilling to change the way that he thinks or learn anything, and two, he's lying, he's pretending, he's wanting to be part of this crowd that pushes people's buttons. He wants to push his woo through Skype and all the other kind of stuff. Either case in this instance is unacceptable. I mean, you just can't be ignorant and unwilling to learn or pretending to be that. I mean, they're just. I'm not going to.
He was a troll.
But
I don't know. There's no way to know. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
The thing that really bothers me is when someone completely rejects any kind of evidence, when you explain it to them, they don't necessarily have to fully understand it, and they don't have to agree with everything that you say, but the complete rejection of everything that you say is extremely frustrating. Like, granted, to be fair, if you look at it from his side, we were rejecting everything that he said, but we also had things to back up the reasons why we were doing that, and he didn't. It was just a complete and utter rejection, and he had no ideas of his own to replace how we know things work. I mean, when I was explaining how we know that we have a heliocentric solar system, he was dead ass silent.
He's regurgitating talking points that he's heard, and when asked to refute, like, it's one thing if you want to refute what we say, that's fine. But at least the majority of the people that we have on there, they have a what they think is a legitimate reason to push against. Like, they'll explain why from their end it works in their line of thinking. This guy was just no, I don't, no, I don't, no, I don't, no, I don't, and then to come up here and say that Steve said an expletive at him, like, I'm not a fucking babysitter or anybody's mom. Like, if you can't handle somebody getting heated and telling you to fuck off, don't come on.
Can I say something here?
Yes, of course. Can they hear you?
Yes.
Yeah, they can.
Okay, go ahead.
The reason I actually got into the whole skeptic and into this community in general, I actually I feel like I lost a friend, basically, because he went down the flat earth rabbit hole. And I haven't really talked to him about the whole flat earth thing since. And this entire conversation just reminded me of the whole last conversation I had with him about it. And he literally said, why can't you have a fun debate about it? Why can't you? And it was like Kaitlyn was just saying, it's so frustrating when you don't really have anything of substance to back up your argument, and I'm sitting there Googling tons and tons of stuff because I'm in a position where I don't know everything. I don't have all the information. I know a lot. I knew more than he did, but I don't, I need to fill in my own gaps. And he's going to sit there and say it's a fun debate. I'm like, it's not a debate because it's fantasy versus reality. That's not a debate. That's ridiculous.
But at least bring something to the table. I mean, that's all that I'm asking. Just bring something to the table.
And this is when I start losing my shit, and I apologize for it in some ways, and apologize I don't, because I understand how people are in a discussion, and he uses a very dysonic technique, and that is to say something, take a long pause, for you to start, and then say you interrupted me. I've seen that with flat earthers before. It's a very common technique.
It's just a bad combo with you two, because you do talk a lot. You do talk very fast and quick, and you're just a bad combo together. I mean,
but you know why I talk fast?
That's going to
happen. Because I know I'm going to get interrupted 90% of the time.
I don't care that you talk fast. I mean, it's fine. It doesn't bother me. I'm just saying that the two of you together was just a disaster, because one is looking to jump in, like it's like a little chihuahua and a pug. You have the pug that's just kind of sitting there taking his time and doing his own thing, and the chihuahua is like, gotta get in there. So we're gonna wrap this up. Casey,
I like how Steve's a pug.
I think I'm the chihuahua.
No, Steve's the chihuahua.
I'm a chihuahua.
Oh, you're the chihuahua.
Yeah,
okay.
I got the metaphor.
Gotta get in.
Gotcha.
Do you guys have anything, Kaitlyn, coming up, or anything that you want to touch on, catch us up with? Maybe shoot me, put me out of my misery right now?
Not really that I can think of. Next Saturday, I think it's either next Saturday or next Friday, or probably a combination of the both. There's a 24-hour quantum hug thing going on with Doc Hack and Slash on Twitter. So we're going to do a 24-hour live stream for that, and I won't be on all 24 hours, but there will be a whole bunch of people popping in and out of that. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well,
about online support and shit like that, being nice to each other instead of telling each other to fuck off.
This is a bad time to make that argument. Horrible.
Did you use an expletive?
Huh?
Did you use an expletive?
Just now, yeah. But you used one first. God damn it, Peter.
I know, shit.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
I want to thank you for coming in and letting us expose you to I tell you, you're a power couple, because last week it was Godless Engineer who got but I will say this, Godless Engineer is looking rather pretty in this situation with how you got it. I'm saying, like, with Dave,
he's like a tack bull, right? I'm the chihuahua, he's an attack bull or pit bull.
But comparatively, she got the worst end of the stick, I think, on as far as talk wise goes. You know what I mean? Like exposing her to Richard was a lot more torturous than we exposed Godless Engineer to. Yeah.
The last thing I have to say, folks, is don't be a Richard.
But anyway, you're always a blast to come on. You're welcome anytime. We appreciate it. And,
thank you. I love coming on your show.
This was fun. I'm glad. Yeah. I'm glad. Yeah.
Fun.
I love this. Yeah, people think that's so serious. And it's like, look, if we have righteous indignation, but there's nobody's getting mad or anything. I think it's freaking hilarious. This guy was just a dumbass.
Hope for him. I had a lot of hope for him, though.
Actually,
I was really excited.
I wanted him to do healing. What happened with that?
I know. I so thought I was going to get Skype healed. Like, that's what I thought. I even went to his website and looked at how he does a session. And I don't know what I don't know what $950 or $950 in his country money equals, but that's what he charges for those Skype healing things. So whatever that is, I did find the first part where we did the conversation about the Skype healing. I obviously don't think it works, but I was hoping I would get healed.
Well,
the brain charging. I was really looking forward to that.
I wanted to do that, and I'll explain that, and then we'll close out. But number one, if anybody out there is paying $950 for that Skype healing, then I'm not sure who's stupider in that situation between the two. Number two, I wanted to do a Skype healing with you, but after he explained it and kind of went through everything, I think it would get lost, because he's going into, like, I need personal stories of why you're in, despair and all this other kind of stuff. And, we know we're not going to air that out on, on the internet. So it would just be it wouldn't go anywhere, I wouldn't think. I don't think so either. I was thinking that he does like Benny Hinn, where he can pop the computer screen and you go flying back in your chair.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. So he's in South Africa?
So that's where his Skype says he's from. I don't know.
That's where. Okay, so 950 South African rand equals $76.40 in the U.S.
Well,
it's still $76 too much.
Well, yeah, because he ain't doing shit other than you tell him about your life experiences, and he tells you what you're supposed to feel about it.
Actually, he doesn't even tell you how you're supposed to feel. He just sends back what you're feeling.
It sends it back to you.
Yeah. You walk away. I mean,
With the same feelings you had when you were there.
It's like this: if you go to Denny's and you pay $3.99 for a Grand Slam breakfast, and never mind. That analogy won't work.
By the way, I have
so scrambled. My brain is so scrambled.
I have to tell people.
He stops you from talking to yourself too.
Right. That's right.
He kept trying to stop me. By the way, I don't know what's going on in the live chat. Everybody seems to have a spanner and a crown. No idea what's going on. I have not touched anything. Kyle's not touched anything.
I'm not seeing that either. So
I'm seeing it on my end, and they're seeing it.
But the only ones who actually have are the people who have their names colored. So like the blue names are going to be your mods, and the wrenches. I don't know why the wrenches and crowns are showing up, but if the color's not blue or gold, they're not. I don't think they have any.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you exactly why. It's YouTube itself going, this was the fucking god awfulest stream and the dumbest thing in this shit now, or we're going to give everybody mod control.
This is going to be one of the more popular videos. Trust me.
That's because you're drunk right now. Wait till you sober.
I'm not even buzzed. Okay. I had that much.
Thank you again to the lovely Kaitlyn, and for Mr. Illuminati for making an appearance. That was well timed. And I wish that I was in a better frame of mind to actually enjoy it like I should have. Like looking back, it was I should have enjoyed that a lot more. But
I actually made that. I made that thing. I made it for a single video that he did, and he uses it all the time.
It's good. I'm gonna get me a permanent tinfoil hat that I'm gonna hang right behind me. So when this shit happens,
me too. I think that's a good idea, actually.
But
I've also made him a tinfoil hat.
Thank you guys out there for enduring this. I apologize that we exposed you guys to this, but it had to be done, and it will happen again, and probably worse. I can guarantee you that. So join us tomorrow at 8 o'clock for David Smalley and the artist formerly known as Christian Anarchist, and that's a big jump, isn't it?
I love that name though. The artist formerly known.
He needs to just be a symbol now. The Christian Anarchy symbol. That's just it.
I have to tell you. Can I tell you guys what David Smalley did for me and GE?
Sure. Yeah.
So he knows that I love Trey Crowder. Well, he knows Trey Crowder. Right. So we were talking. So I used to help out with his social media some, and there was one time when we were on the phone with David and Trey was there, and so like I kind of freaked out a little because I love Trey Crowder. I think he's hilarious. Y'all know who Trey Crowder is, right?
Louder with Crowder.
Huh?
Louder with Crowder.
Okay. So he's the liberal. No. He's the liberal. What's he called? Liberal redneck. No. Yes. Liberal redneck. He's a comedian. Not Steven Crowder.
I think it's Steven Crowder. Yeah.
No, not Steven Crowder. Trey Crowder. He's a comedian.
No. Sorry.
You guys don't know who. Go Google that motherfucker. He's hilarious. So Trey Crowder. And do people in the chat know who Trey Crowder is? Am I like... I can't be the only person who knows who the fuck he is. G knows who he is. Okay. So anyway. So David knows Trey. I saw on Facebook that Trey was coming to Huntsville, where we live. And so I sent David a message and I was like, hey, Trey's coming to Huntsville. And I was going to buy tickets that day. And I thought maybe David could just hook up like a quick little meet and greet thing. No, David got a hold of Trey and got us tickets. So we just have to go in, show our ID, and we have VIP tickets and we get to meet Trey after the show. And I'm so excited. We do that on Saturday this week.
How awesome is that?
Isn't David such a nice guy?
He is. He really is. It was fantastic. And Kaitlyn, I want to tell everybody out there to, guys, get excited because sometime this fall, I will be joining them in Alabama, and we will be taking a trip to Dinosaur Adventureland to the Kent Hovind compound. So that video will be epic. That's something to look forward to.
I wish Steve, I wish you lived closer so you could come too.
I don't think I'm missing out on much, but you know what? There's a Creation Museum. I think
we went
somewhere around here. No, there's a couple different ones. I mean, I know you went to one, but there's more than just one. There's all they are big little bookstores for the most part. But there's one.
But how do you know?
Google Maps.
But how do you know?
Google Maps are a conspiracy because satellites don't exist, Steve. God damn it!
Oh, nothing exists.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.